Okay, so I've got this 2D drawing plan drawn in AutoCAD that I want to set up for printing now and get all the line weights and everything else working on a page with the plan set up at a particular scale. So I've got a layout there already that I'm going to use for that. This is an old file, so you may not have seen this message that's just come up. That is only going to come up if you have this variable regen auto turned off, and you can see there it is. I'm just turning that on. Okay, so you probably won't see that because it's turned on by default most of the time. So normally when you go to the layout, it'll show you something just like this, and you can always use any layout and adjust it so that it's set up the way you want it to print. So I'm going to modify this one and make sure it's got a page size that I want. So that's usually the very first thing. When you're going to set up your print, even before you worry about your line weights and things, make sure you know your page size. And so here, as been modified, that'll take me straight into this particular page setup. And you can see I've got Adobe PDF set as the default printer there. So that's a really good default option because even if you're not plugged into a printer, you'll always have that one there, and it's got a good range of page sizes. If you don't have the Adobe PDF, in AutoCAD, you'll always have the DWG to PDF PC3 file, which is a virtual printer as well. So you can always use that, and that has basically the same page sizes. The Adobe PDF just does a slightly better job, so I'm going to use that one. Okay, so I'll set this one up for A3, I suppose. It could be for bigger, but I'm fairly sure this one will fit on A3 at 1 to 200 or something like that. And then we'll do a larger page size. Now you can see here, I've got unusual scales coming up. That's because there's a units problem with this file. Like I said, this is an old file, and you will see that happen quite often. Now, it's not a problem because when you're working on a page or in a layout, you should always set the scale here to 1 to 1. Okay, and so that's going to be fine. All right, so I've got the drawing orientation set to landscape the way I want it, and then, but you know, always check that. And then the plot style table. So a good default is monochrome, if you're not sure. So grayscale is quite different if you're using that one. Monochrome will always give you black lines. And if you're wondering why, I'll just quickly show you. This plot style table basically makes all your colours print black, so whatever colours you've got on the screen, they all get turned into black. But then it uses the line weight from the layer. Well, it's really from the object, but in this case it'll be from the layer. Okay, so that's a really good way of working, I think. The other way of doing it is by colour, and I'll maybe give you a quick example of that. But yeah, that's right. Oh, that's the yeah. See, the ACAD one is set to print by colour. Yeah, and so that's if you want the colours to print out. But then another way of doing it is setting each colour to be a particular line weight. So you might have red as your light lines and yellow heavy or something. Okay, so that's all I need to do for now for the page setup. So I'm just going to click OK, close, and you can see that my viewport is really small. And that is again because of the issue with the units. Not a problem. I've got the page size set to the size that I want in millimeters, which means now I can move this viewport. I'm just stretching it using the grips there. And then I'm going to double click to make the viewport active. Now, if you're not sure whether that's happened or not, you can always look down the bottom and see whether it's got model or paper there. So I'm just going to switch there back to paper, and you can see I'm working on the page again. I can click on the paper button to go back to model as well. To go back to paper, I could also double click outside the viewport. Double clicking back inside, again takes me back to model. So then a good starting point before you do any scaling is to double click or do a zoom extents so that you can see everything, and then zoom just using the wheel or something to roughly center the view over what you want to see in that viewport. Then set the scale. Now again, you can see here we've got unusual scales coming up because of the, again, the issue with the units. So I'm going to add my own scale. You can always do that. And so I'm going to put 1 to 100 as the name, and then paper units 1 equals 100. Now you usually have all of these, but if you ever need to add a scale, you can always do that. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK, and now I can choose 1 to 100 from the list there. Okay, so that's fitting fairly well. I'm losing the footpath and everything else around the outside, but that's okay. I don't really want that on a ground floor plan like this anyway. I might just go back to Paperspace and actually, using the viewport there, bring that in a little bit further. I'm going to turn ortho off to make that a bit easier, and I'll turn snaps off as well. Sorry, object snap off, and I've got tracking on as well. So there we go. So now it won't snap to anything, and just bring this. That one's okay. Maybe just bring this one on the right a bit, so that can come back down. Actually, there we go. Okay, so that's the way I want the viewport to appear on the sheet. Now I'm going to go in and have a look at my layers. So just using layer properties there, and you can see I've got quite a few layers there, and this one was set up to print with the line weights done by colour. So you can see here there are lots of standard colours used. So white, yellow, green, red, blue, all of those standard primary colours. When you're printing with line weights for colour, they're usually used to assign those line weights. Okay, so I will assign some line weights to these layers though in a moment. What I want to do now though is see if I have some non-printing layers. So I've got def points there. So you probably know def points is a non-printing layer in AutoCAD. Okay, so that's a system layer. You can't set it to be printing. So over here you'll see it's, oh there it is, it's non-printing, but that one's grayed out. Okay, so you can use that for anything that you want to be non-printing, but it doesn't hurt to make your own non-printing layers as well. So I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to call it viewports. And I'm going to make it a nice bright colour that stands out. Well, I'm going to use it for the viewports. So I don't want the borders to print, so I'm just going to put those onto that layer. And so I don't need to make that layer current. I'm just going to close this now, and then I can select my viewport and simply change it to that layer.
Can you have two viewports on that viewport? One for the
Oh, absolutely.
How do you do that?
Yeah, so I'll do that on the bigger page. Well, the viewport was exactly, yeah. So the viewport was there already, but I've just put the viewport onto a non-printing layer. Okay, so I'm just going to print a different way to what you might do. I'm going to type plot, just because it's quicker than going to the menu, but I'm sure you know you can go to the main menu and choose print. It does the same thing. And then I'm just going to show you a preview before I come back and adjust the print. So here you can see we've got the good old plot border, and looking at the lines, well, you can see that the border isn't printing, but which is what we want, but also the line weights are all the same at the moment. So now I want to go and have a look at getting the line weights. So the first thing though, before you even worry about those things, is being absolutely sure that you've got the page size right, and then the scale right, and then the basic graphics and layout set up the way you want it on the page. Right, so now, looking at the area here where I was showing you the line weights, we'll look at some of the layers. So I've got the black lines there on this existing layer because there's existing walls, and the hatch there is actually on the same layer, which is, I'll show you in a moment, not the best way of doing it, but I'll show you how you can change that to a different line weight as well. And then we've got yeah, basically everything non-existing. Just want to see if there's any other layers. I've changed my layer standard since doing this. So that's new walls. New walls, they should really be on a door swing layer. And then we've got joists. Okay, so I'll just have a look at those layers. So going into the layer manager now, the existing layer there, I'll make that a a lightish layer. I don't want it to be too light, but 0.18 or something like that. And then the new walls layer, I'll make fairly heavy, so 0.35. And then the joists layer, I'll make light, so I'll make that 0.13. Now I'll make a new layer as well, and I'll call that new layer, and I'll call that new new door swing. And I'll make that have a really light line weight as well, just so you can see the doors the right way. And I'll change that colour. Okay, so I'll just go and change the door swings there onto that layer. Okay, but everything else I'll leave on the layer that it's on. So going back into plot now, and looking at the preview, I'll just zoom in on that area. Okay, and so you can see there that the door swing's now got a lighter line weight. The joists have as well, so these are all the lines for the joists. Everything else still has the original line weight. The existing walls, you can see that's changed the line weight there. So, so that's all there is to it. You can set all of your line weights that way just using your layers. But where it gets confusing is when you start mixing up the two approaches. So I'll show you the other way. Okay, so like I was saying, this this file was set up originally to use colours for line weight. And so instead of going and assigning line weights to each of these, I've got it at 30, just remember that, sorry. Each of these layers, the other way of doing it, and this is the older way, would be to make a special plot style table. So I'm going to go here to edit this monochrome CTB file. So CTB means color table, or color dependent plot style table, what it really stands for. Okay, so before I do anything here, I'm going to do a save as, because it's really important that I don't mess up the monochrome file. So save as, and I'll call this by color. Alright, and so then I'm just going to go through and assign line weights to just the main colours. So red, in our old system, was heavy, so I'm going to make that 0.35. Yellow was light, so I'm going to make that 0.13, 0.15 can work as well. So then 3 was a medium, so that will be 0.25. 4 was medium glass, so
originally you'd set up all your line weights with the intent, your colours with the intention that they're going to be line weights.
Exactly.
Draw that way.
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, and that can be really good because when you just look at the screen, you can see instantly they're yellow lines, they're going to be whatever line weight.
So it's like just drawing the pen so you can see your mouth.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but the thing is, you have to have these color-dependent files everywhere you go. You've got to take this CTB file with you everywhere you want to print that file. Whereas if you just do it with the layers, then you can take that drawing file anywhere and use the monochrome CTB file. So there's advantages to both ways. And look, if you're doing it from scratch yourself these days, I think by layer is probably still the easiest way. I'm only showing you the by color method just so you can see how this should have looked print. And also, it's good to know about these old methods. You'll still probably go to work in places where they are still using color to set their line weights. Now, so which pen am I doing here? That's 5, so that should be light. And 6 as well. Good. And 2. Okay, so now they're the standard colours from 1 to 7, but you might remember I also used colour 30. So if you use any non-standard colours, you've got to remember to go and set their line weight as well using this method. Okay, so now I can choose that by colour plot style table, and you can see now the line weights are all assigned. So, well, it's not the furniture. I don't know, can't remember what happened with those, but the joists and everything else there. The line type scale is going strange, and that's another issue. So, well, I'll show you how to fix that as well. So, see how the dashed lines aren't coming through properly here? Okay, so that's a separate issue. Okay, so again, that's all because this file is old, so it's from probably AutoCAD 14, which is from the mid-90s, basically. So looking at the joists there, they're on this joists layer. So I'm going to go to that layer, and you can see the joist layer is set to use the dashed line type. Oh, sorry, dash dot 2 it is. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my line types. So you can get to it here. I think there's a shortcut somewhere. Yeah, down here. Okay, so if you go to the drop down under your line types, you can go to other and get to the line type manager there. Or you can always just type in line type on the command line if you forget that. Okay, so in your line type manager, it's really important that you know about showing the details, because then you can see the most important setting, which is your global scale factor. Okay, so there, this is something that you can change. If you're printing from model space, it'll help you sometimes, but if you're printing from paper space, you want your global scale factor to be 1 generally. And now to regen my viewport, I'm going to just type regen all, which will regenerate everything. And you can see then my lines, I'm just going to zoom in there. Yeah, okay, so now you can see the line type's visible, but this tells me that that line type is probably a bit too small now for this, now that I've got the scale set correctly. Oh no, but these ones, see, there are actually small as well. So I could go in and change the line types that are being used by the layers. So in this drawing, line types like dash dot 2 and hidden 2 have been used. And if you've seen those line types, they're all...
Sorry, Daniel, I thought we had Bristler, that's why...
Oh yeah, no, look, it was a bit confused. So
yeah,
don't worry, I mean, but yeah, I'll talk to you about that. I'm just recording, but I'll talk to you about that. Okay, so dash dot 2, hidden 2, those line types in AutoCAD, they're half scale line types. So they're good when you need something to be half scale, but don't use them generally. So in this case though, because I have got everything half scale, I've got to go back now. Rather than change all those line types, I'm just going to go back to this, sorry, not line weight, line type setting, and I'll adjust that global scale factor. And so I'll try 5. Yeah, that's about right for this. Okay, so you can see now that's got my dashes about the right size. But generally, 1 should be right, and then go up from there. But if you see something like 200, then chances are you're not going to see any of your line types.
So if you're in layout and you're looking at the screen, what you see on the screen will be what prints.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. In your layouts, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Okay, so now you'll see. There we go. That's how it should print. Oh, that's just up to you how you want to organise things. So a good way of thinking about it is in terms of whether it's existing or not. So that's usually the first thing. If for existing layers, you can put existing at the front or X to separate them from the rest of your layers. But or if you want to work the other way, you can put new in front of all your new things. And but then usually you break it down by elements. So you'd have a layer for walls, a layer for doors, a layer for windows, and then within that, say if you've got glass in your windows, you'd have Windows glass. So you might have existing Windows glass or new Windows glass, and then you may even break it down further. But you just want to think about what's the most important category first, and then break the hierarchy down after that. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you. You're the one who'll be looking at it, and if you have a look at the drawings that you get when you export from Revit, that'll show you a proper layer standard. So if you want to see one of those, just export from there. When you export a drawing file from Revit, it'll give you layers with the proper layer standards. So if you want to see those, just do that. but no one uses them, so I wouldn't be too worried
You
about it.
can export a drawing you've done in Revit to Boreg.
Oh yeah, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course, absolutely. Yeah, that's the way most people do their work. So, yeah, and look, and maybe I'll quickly show you that because I'm going to be coming into Revit in a moment, and then I'll finish up this video and do one or two on families. I will, yeah, that's what I'm going to do now in AutoCAD, and then I'm going to do the Revit thing. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so that's a really important thing, and that's one of the main reasons you use layouts, so you can have the multiple viewports. So I've done all of the work setting up this page layout already, so rather than making a new one from scratch, I'm going to copy this one by right-clicking on the layout and going to Move or Copy. And then I'm just going to go to Move to End and tick Create a Copy. Okay, and then I've got a new layout, which is at the moment identical to the first one. So there, I'm going to make the page bigger, again by right-clicking on the tab, Page Setup Manager, Modify, and I'm going to make this page A1, I think. So I'll just go for oversized A1.
Why?
Oh, okay. So it's just set up for a lot. It's just slightly larger than A1. That's all I can say.
Right.
So it's not a standard ISO page, which is 841 by 594. But it can be useful when you want to see, I suppose, the area around the border, but also when you want to print on plotters, because quite often you can print larger sizes. It's actually not a good idea to always set them in the layouts. I'm just doing it here because I'm working with the Adobe PDF.
Right.
And I don't have the ISOs in here. So yeah, generally if you're setting up a page in AutoCAD, if you're not familiar with the main page, oh sorry, here I've got A1, so I'll use that just so it's not confusing. I'll just hit OK there. You want to set your page or the area that you're printing to be exactly the ISO size, which is in this case 594 by 841. But then remember that the print area is going to be quite a bit smaller than that. So that's going to vary. And in AutoCAD, it will show you the plot area, but if you're working with the Adobe PDF, that's the plot area for the PDF converter, not for the printer. So you still need to allow, quite a bit of room anyway around the edge. And a handy thing that you can do is find the print area for your printer and draw that on your page. So just draw a rectangle. If you've got a printer that will print, say, 800 by 570, which is probably a common one, you can draw a rectangle, 800 by 570, and you know exactly what's going to fit on your page. So when you're working on the page, you're working at one-to-one, you should be able to do all those things really precisely.
And you're working in layout, yes.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so again, if you want to keep that, you could always put that onto the viewports layout. So I've got a viewport here already, but I want a new one. Of course, I could always copy that viewport, but if you don't have any, you should know how to make them as well. And so on the View tab, you'll see you've got the Viewports panel there, which has all sorts of tools for making viewports. So I'm just going to make a rectangular viewport by clicking a couple of points. How are we going to do this? I'll just do this as a part plan. And so I'll bring this one up here. An easy way of moving things, if you don't know this, you can just highlight anything and then click and drag on the border away from the grips, and that's a shortcut to move if you don't know that in AutoCAD. And then this viewport I'll put onto the viewports layer as well, so it's not going to print. Okay, so now I want to have multiple scales. All right, so maybe this one I'll make even smaller. So I'm going to do it a different way. I'll click onto the border of the viewport, and you can always change the scale there without going into model space. So again, here I have to go to custom, and then I'm just going to go to add again to put my 1 to 200, and then putting the drawing units in, of course, down the bottom. So again, I need to choose the viewport now and then select that new scale. Okay, so that's, say, my locality plan maybe, and I want to adjust the position of that plan inside the viewport now. So I need to go into model space, pan, back to Paperspace, and I'll adjust the viewport. Now I'm going back into model space again. So I want to show you a really handy option if you haven't seen it before. You can lock the scale. So I'm in model space. If I zoom, that's going to change the scale. And you can tell instantly because the viewport scale goes to something non-standard. So I'm going to undo that. And then I'm going to lock the scale. So next to that scale setting, you've got this padlock. You can lock it. And now when I zoom, I'm still in model space, but the whole page zooms and the viewport stays locked. So a really handy thing when you're working on layouts. I'll go back to Paperspace now and then just bring this viewport over. So I've got a bit more room. Double click to go into model space, and then I'll just do one of these units. So again, I've got it roughly centered over the unit that I want, and then I'll set the scale by, well, first I'll need to add a custom scale again, and then add 1 to 50. And then again, choose it to set it from the list. Okay, so now again I can go back to Paperspace and fine tune the viewport if I want to. Okay, but that's basically the process, and so I might just want this to show the one unit so I can always crop out the
But
others.
You're still referring to the same drawing.
Of
So
course.
if you went in and changed something in the 1 to 50, it would change it.
Yep.
In the 1 to 200 you've
Yep.
got, it would change it in everything.
There, see the piano here and there. I'll delete it from both at the same time.
Right.
So yeah, no problem. So it's just like Revit in that way. You're using viewports to get multiple views of the one thing. And so that's been an approach in AutoCAD for decades, really. Using, I mean, often you'll have, you know, multiple plans, and I mean 10 or 20 plans generated from the one area, because you might have, you know, electrical layouts, air conditioning, lots of different spatial layouts and details, lots of different things from the one.
So in these viewports, you can turn off layers.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. So I should have mentioned that. So yeah, of course, if you don't know this, you'll see when you're working on layouts only, you won't see this in model space or on your model tab. But then once you're on a layout, whether you're in model space or Paperspace, in your layer panel, you'll see you've got this extra option to freeze or thaw layers in the current viewport only. So I can freeze, well, I'll just do an obvious one, maybe the existing walls there. I'll freeze them in this current viewport only. So you can see they're gone from here, but they're still visible in this 1 to 200 there. So, you know, if you think about all the things you can do with that, you can get some, you know, a lot of things out of one view. Multiple scales. Have you had a look at annotative scale? Okay, that's for another day. If we get time, I'll show you that, because that will help you with this as well. But that's probably enough. That'll give you enough to get you printing really well, hopefully. The last thing I'll just say there, though, if you don't know, if you're printing from Revit, trying to make PDFs and bring them into InDesign, and you're having trouble getting transparencies, a really good trick is to bring them into AutoCAD first and print them from there, because PDFs made from AutoCAD will almost always have perfect transparencies. Okay, so in other words, the lines will come through, but the white will be transparent. And so you can just do your colours under your plans in InDesign or Illustrator or something, and it's much easier. Or in Photoshop, it's still much easier in Photoshop. So yeah, really good thing to know. And so once you know you can bring your Revit things into AutoCAD really easily like that, then that might help you a lot with InDesign as well. Because notice that's one thing that's really improved this year, the graphics with the presentations. So I was really happy about the fact actually that a lot of people were getting their 3D images and doing work in graphics programs to make them look the way they wanted to. I mean, if you can do the photorealism, it's great, but it's really hard to get really good realism. And if it looks a bit computery and blocky, it's not a good presentation. So it's much better to go for that graphic approach. And you can still use the 3D software to help you a lot there. I know a lot of people obviously did, otherwise you couldn't have gotten those perspectives. But no, it's really good that people have gotten a good grasp of you know, a real multimedia approach. So using the tool that you need to get the result that you want, instead of just letting the software take you where it wants to go. Okay, so I'm just going to open up a file quickly here that has something I can export. Oh, there we go. That one does right there. Actually, sorry, not that one. This one. Okay, so I'll, sorry about that, I've got to open up a different file. I should be pausing the video here. Okay, so I thought I'd just quickly show you exporting from AutoCAD, sorry, exporting from Revit to AutoCAD. And so I'll start by doing it from a layout, which I should have here. These are very rough. Actually, did I not set up layouts for this one? No. Oh, okay. I've got a very basic layout there, but I'll make a new layout for it or a new sheet for you. So that's exploded isometric. Oh, they're just a couple of 3D views laid out over each other.
I saw and then the dashed lines, it's done in Revit as well.
Yeah. So just on annotate, you've got detail lines. So they're just 2D lines like you draw in AutoCAD.
Are you recording?
Yes. Oh, yeah, I am. Yep. And so I'll export this one. I'll show you what happens when we go back to AutoCAD with that one as well. But I'll start by exporting just a plan. And so, yeah, that's the one I'm after. Okay, so I'll export this. Notice I'm exporting from the floor plan view itself. So not from the sheet yet. So I'm going to go export, CAD formats, DWG files. And you can do some really good things with the options in here, but I'm just going to, for now, leave it on the default. So next. And it'll ask me for a file name. So I'm just going to put this into a folder and we'll have a look at it in AutoCAD. Okay, so by the time that's done, can take a minute, but let's just see if I go back to AutoCAD. Hopefully by the time I look for it, it'll be there. Yes, there it is. Okay, so this is the plan I've just exported from Revit. Yep. And so you can see there, it's come in as a flattened drawing. I'll just orbit in 3D so you can see that it is just flat lines. So that's not what it was in Revit. In Revit it was 3D walls, but so it's flattened. So that's actually a good thing. That's how you'd want it to be. And so it makes it into just regular AutoCAD lines. At the moment that's a block, if you look at it in properties. But if I explode that, you'll see it's just a line. And the really nice thing they do for you in the layers is they set all the line weights up for you. You can still go and adjust those if you need to, but it's a simple thing to change because the layers are all set up really well. So the walls there, for example, if I want them to be heavier, it's no problem now to just go and quickly change that to a different line weight. And then you'll see when you go to print that, I'll actually just see if I've got a layout that'll do. Oh yeah, yeah. See, the bulk works in, but that's Revit's real strength for the work you're doing is churning out the bulk items, the bulk of your design, the main walls, doors, floors, ceilings, all those main elements. And then you've got to make a decision how you're going to put the detail in and how you're going to get to your final presentation. And there are lots of different ways. So one way, especially if you want a lot of control over each line in your plans, and especially if you're planning on doing all the rendering in InDesign anyway, the plan rendering, then it can be much easier to get it to a point where you're reasonably happy in Revit and you're pretty sure your design isn't going to change. You don't want to be, doing it before you finish your design. But then, if you've got plans that are, pretty well under control, export them from Revit and then, do all the detailed line work and tidy things up really well in AutoCAD. And so that's the way all the guys I've had for a few years do it. And so you can see there, that's the default setup if you just go to print that now from AutoCAD. But what happens if I go to monochrome? Now I've got to put my border onto a a viewport layout or something, but otherwise you can see the line weights are pretty good. If there were doors here, you could see, again, line weight's pretty good. And everything else, hatching and everything else working without doing any real setup. The dimensions there could have some work done to the line weights, but otherwise pretty good without doing anything, really.
Wow, because I hate doing dimensions in CAD, but to do them in Revit it's really simple.
Yeah.
And, oh man.
Yeah. So, but those little things, you know, you always learn lots of tricks, and I only learnt these things working in offices over years and years. I had to work a lot of them out for myself.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, you've got to get the job done and people have to work out ways of doing things. So, oh yeah, so back into Revit. Okay, so that's from a single view. Now, if I go down to a sheet, and I'll, yeah, we'll just go for this one. Okay, so I'm going to put, oh sorry, not that one, the same plan onto the sheet, and a 3D view or two. That'll do. And maybe a section box. And I'll do a section as well. Okay, so yeah, that might do. All right, so I'm going to export that again as a DWG file, and I'm just going to again leave it all on defaults. So next, and then again, just checking the folder, I'm going to click OK. Now, have you done XREFs in AutoCAD?
What?
XREFs? External references? No? Okay, so there's maybe another option I've got to show you then, but let's go back into AutoCAD now. So I'm going to go to open that new file that it's just made for me. And notice how there's a file at the top with the name of the sheet, but then below that I've got all these new files with longer names. So they're all linked to the original file. So Revit set all this up for us. And okay, so now what you'll see is that I've got all of those views. Now this might look nothing like what I had in Revit, but it actually is. Those views are now set up as external references. So this, and this are separate files, separate AutoCAD files. I'll just show you the files. Okay, so it's set up this separate AutoCAD file for me, which is linked into this file.
So that means if you change it here, it changes it.
Yeah, that's right. So I can go to each of those files separately now, work on them. I can work on my section or my plan or this isometric. So that's the one I really wanted you to see because it's flattened as well. It's not 3D. See how it's flat? Which is a good thing because, again, it means you can tidy up the lines. Okay, you're not working on it as a full 3D model, so you can just go in, and if you've got lines that are causing problems with some complex graphics that you're doing, you can just delete them or change them to be what you want, and that can be, well, it can really save you from not being able to get your work done. So again, when you've got errors or just issues with your 3D display, see here, there might not be a problem, but say that was a close-up view, it would be an issue having the legs there not being cut by these louvers. Okay, but if you go back into AutoCAD, you can always, so I need to be in the file that's in. Okay, so you can always go in and work on it just as lines. So these are my louvers, and so I'm going to just see if that's a block, so I've got to explode all of this. And then I can use good old trim, and so we really only see between these lines. So everything else outside it needs to go. And so I can just trim all of that back, and on the other side as well. I know this is probably going into, oh, the line stops there anyway, so that's fine. And I can just clear out everything else. And see, Revit, you could never do this. Okay, so you know, a little tidying up like that, much easier. And just the control you get in AutoCAD is much better. But so the last thing I just wanted to show you is what happens if you export a 3D view. So I'm going to go to my isometric view. No, so I'll go to the full one. So you can export from a 3D view like this. CAD formats again, DWG again, and so again, just with the default options, we're going to hit next, OK, and then have a look at that in AutoCAD.
Why would you do that?
If you want the 3D model.
As a flat.
No, as a 3D.
Like perspectives as well, just to get one.
Yeah, so you do want the 3D sometimes in AutoCAD. AutoCAD is a really powerful 3D program. So there are some things it can do that Revit can't do. And so when you've done work in Revit in 3D and you want to then keep going in AutoCAD, you can do that as well. So, but AutoCAD 3D is hard, and that's why we just don't teach it here anymore. It's it would take up the whole course, really, if we taught that. So it's a choice of either AutoCAD 3D or Revit 3ds Max and AutoCAD 2D. We did teach AutoCAD 3D here in years gone by, and yeah, it basically took the whole 3 years for people to get anything done. But I love it, it's great. If you ever get time, it's, you know, the best way of really learning 3D. So there we are, so that's a 3D model made in Revit, but in AutoCAD, and it would work fine here now, and I could keep going and build that up and do lots of things that I just don't have time to show you. But if you're interested, have a look at the 3D modeling workspace, and you'll see all of the amazing 3D tools AutoCAD has. So Solids tools probably not a bad place to start, but the surfaces is really where it's at. So
Sorry, then it comes as a solid or a
yeah, solids and surfaces, yeah. So they're the two. Surface and mesh are kind of similar.
Yeah, so it comes as solid. You can run the section and get your section out. Yeah.
Yep, you can. Yep, absolutely. Yep. So you know, AutoCAD 3D's got a big future ahead of it, but it won't be with the work you do. It'll be more with product design and mechanical and that sort of thing. All right. So anyhow, I'll finish up that video there, I think, and sorry, maybe I'll just quickly show you to finish up the print from that file that I exported with the sheet, because I didn't show you that. So sorry, not this one. Not this one. This one. Sorry, it's going very slowly. I'm going to close some of these files. So I've got 20 programs open at the moment. No. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, so so this is the file with the external references. So in other words, Revit set up this master file with these 3 view files linked into it, and it's also made a layout. Now, it can be a bit off-putting when you open it because it'll often be zoomed in to a corner. But when you zoom out to see the whole page, you can see it's all set up for you just like it was in Revit. So one thing they don't do for you is make a layer for your viewports. So I'll just do that. And do my standard thing of making it bright and non-printing. Okay, so I'm only going to put these 3 viewports onto that layer. Notice they do make an anno non-plot layer for you, but I don't want that to be non-printing. You'll see why in a moment. So I'm going to put this onto my new viewports layer, and I've left the perspective viewport there on the original layer they made so that I can leave it printing because I want that border. So what I'm doing here is setting the page size, just like I did in the first place with that layout I showed you from scratch. So was it A1? I'll just have to check that in Revit actually. So this title block was A2. Okay, so back in AutoCAD. Oh. Yep, okay, so A2. And then, again, 1-to-1, always for layouts. By monochrome, sorry. Generally to print things from Revit. Apply to layout, we'll save these settings, and I think that's all done. So, okay. And that's going to make a PDF file for me now. But because I clicked apply to layout, those settings are still going to be saved. So now I'll just put this somewhere. Okay, so that'll do. And it's going to make a PDF for me. So I did it fairly quickly there, but you might have noticed I turned off any scaling. And so that was the last thing I did when I set 1-to-1, but I'd already turned off the scaling there. So really important that you do keep the scale that's been set in Revit. Okay, so there we are. So that's how it would print from AutoCAD. So you can see all the line weights come through perfectly. All set up as they would be in Revit, but it's just lines, so you've got total control. Oh no, there we go. So you can see that border. They've changed. They fixed it. Okay, so that is set to be non-printing. Okay, so that's something I've got to adjust to. All right, so this one here, I'll just go into my layers and make that one printing. That's the layer that the viewports came in on from Revit. Okay, so back to plot now. I won't print it again. I'll just do a preview, and you can see there the border of the perspective comes in. Okay, so hopefully that'll help you. I know the third year bachelor's people are doing a lot of this at the moment to get.
Just show us that 3D views in Revit. How do you?
Oh, yep, sure, yep, I'll do that. Yep, sure. Yeah, because that definitely relates to this. So, yep, so I'll just so minimize that. So I used a layout on a sheet just to allow me to place the two views. But the main setup is back in the views themselves. So all I've done is make a default 3D view, and then I've duplicated it and renamed it to make this view.
So how is that how come that there is no rule?
So then I've used a section box. So here you can see the section box is turned on in the view properties, but you can't see it because I've also hidden it. So down here I'll just turn the light bulb on, and you can see there that's the section box. So I've cropped the top away with that, and then I've made another view by duplicating that, and then just lifted the section box up higher. So these are the finished product. So I've got, sorry, this one here actually is the one that you saw on the sheet. So that's the lower level, and then the upper level is basically just the same view copied with the section box lifted higher. And then you just need to, when you go to place them on a sheet, I'll just delete them and place them again, I think. So just get rid of those. Okay, because you can't place views twice on a sheet. So here we are. So this one here, just drag it on, and then the second one, when you go to place it, it should give you the alignment line to show you, yep, when they're in line, and then you can do something like set the viewport to have no title, and then just by eye put it above where you want it to be, and then just draw in some detail lines with the probably just with the default dashed or whatever you want that are in the file. Yeah, yep. So you just draw by eye. I mean, it probably won't snap to the corners, but you can always just zoom right in and get it in line with something, and that's it. So I'll just get that down to here, and then I can always just stretch that down, something like that, and that's all there is to it, really. So yeah, it's really simple and really effective though. So I've noticed, well, I saw Troy did that for his, yeah, and Will. So I showed that to Will last last term, and he did some really good ones for the Trocadero that I saw. And yeah, it's a great presentation method, I think. But you don't want to overuse it because now everyone's doing it. But you can have a look at different ways of doing it. You can trick the graphics up a bit, put shadows in, try more pencil style graphics to just change the look of it and make it look maybe a bit less technical because other people have done it. That's all. Yeah, it's definitely a really good presentation. So anyhow, I'll finish that video because otherwise it'll never